All right, so I hate to interrupt the viewing of the seal. It's lovely. I found another spot right here, kind of a park across the street from the courthouse behind me here. Snuck away there during that little kerfuffle over the testimony that they were trying to determine whether it was a hearsay statement to be used for the state for the truth of the matter asserted about the money, the stapled money. Guess what? It is being used for the truth of the matter asserted, but I think there's a way around that. We'll see if the prosecution can come up with a way around that, because they want to get all that testimony in that has to do with the way that the Adelsons, especially Charlie, kept his money, stapled like we all do. I think one of the witnesses, I think it was June, she's the one that said that I told Charlie you should put a paperclip on that stuff. What the hell are you doing stapling things? Anyway, so interesting morning. Not nearly the craziness of the Wendy Adelson testimony from yesterday, but nonetheless started strong with, of course, Jeff Lacasse, former boyfriend of Wendy Adelson, and I think universally nicest guy on the planet. I mean, anybody not like this guy? His testimony pretty consistent with what it has been in the past. I did talk to him just before he went on to testify, just to say, hey, we'd love to get you on the program, obviously, when you're completely done. And he seemed amenable to that. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to, shoo me away. But super nice guy. So he testifies as we expected. He had, kind of an interesting, short but sort of turbulent relationship with Wendy. Is that a surprise? No, it is not a surprise. And so it ends about 4 days before the murder of Dan Markel. That was mid-July. But it was kind of, it was on its way out well before that, it seems, just because of the weird way they would, sort of be together and then not be together. And then it was the whole yoga experiment. I think it's the first time he's been vocally as off on the yoga. I don't know why we were going to yoga, sitting there stretching for 80 minutes, I think is what he said. So anyway, he was also well aware of the relocation request and loss. And most importantly, and this relates back to that crazy book that I've been reading, the Wendy Adelson book that she refused to sign for me yesterday. Go figure. And she talks about her character in that book is Lily in Hiawassee Springs, I think it's called, a fictional town in the Panhandle, not at all sounding like Tallahassee, Hiawassee. But that character, not a fan of that little community that she was living in. So not unlike what we're hearing from witnesses about Wendy's real feelings for Tallahassee and the motivation to get the hell out and go south so she can be with mommy, and that the grandparents would be happier too because the two kids would be down there and not up here in the Panhandle. So that was all pretty much as expected, except for the part where Jeff is talking about this relocation loss, and that's when things kind of started to go south with this couple. It was always, he got tired of talking about it. That all he would hear about is, nasty Dan Markel and how he's, ruining the life of Wendy Adelson and by extension, her whole family. Right. But one of the interesting points, let me get to my, I thought this was ironic. There was a date at which Jeff went to the circus with Wendy and some of the and a couple of the other Adelsons. That seems appropriate to me. Might as well get used to being in the circus if you're going to be hooked up with the Adelson family. And by the way, have I welcomed you to the latest edition of As the Adelsons Turn on One Another? Yeah. Good to have you along. Appreciate that. Every day is different here at this courthouse. Yesterday, as we know, packed. I got here in the afternoon, lucky enough to get a seat as Wendy Adelson's testimony was being completed. But today, probably half the courtroom is full. And I know everybody's been very concerned. Jimmy's fine. He was not so great yesterday. He told me he was feeling a little ill yesterday, so he did not come to the courthouse. But right after he told me he was sick yesterday, he gave me a big hug. So I don't know if I disappear, you'll know why. And he is sitting on the other side I've been on back and forth, but he's on the other side, which is the behind the defense side. So I'm sure you can catch him on camera there. I want to sit on the other side today because I'm closer to the jury, and I'm doing my notes to kind of figure out who's whom in the jury, match them up with all the notes I took before I came down here. There's always one or two that kind of catch your attention for one reason or another. The woman who is on the top right, okay, there's only 2 rows, and they're set up as 6 and 8, 14, including the 2 alternates. She's on the top right. I'm going to say 45-ish. I'm horrible about that. Linda Kenny Bodden, who will be back to join us here when she gets done with some work she's working on. She'd probably call me sexist, but I'm doing my best I can to figure out these ages. But I've dubbed her the secretary. And I don't mean that maybe I should call her the administrative assistant. She's got the notepad. They've all got notepads, and they're all used, intermittently. This woman, I've never seen it leave her hand. Of course, I've only been here for a day and a half, but never have I seen this notepad leave her hand. And she's constantly, like back in the day when, a secretary, administrative assistant, would take dictation. So she's totally into it. Doesn't matter who's testifying. Doesn't matter what they're talking about. She's taking some notes. So it's unfortunate I don't have access to those notes. They're probably much better than my own. Anyway, and then it's a predominantly white jury, and it's 8 men, 6 women. Most I'd say the overall age range is upper 20s to 50 or so, maybe a little older than that on one occasion. And the way they're stacked up is the front row, which has 8 people, has just 1 woman in it. And the back row has the balance of the women and then a couple of the guys. So anyway, they've been whack-a-moling in and out a few times, even today when issues have come up. So that's when you really get a sense of, their physicality and whether or not you see any sort of connection. It's kind of early, and it's not like they're going to go walking from the jury box into the deliberation room, hand in hand. But still, you get a sense. People just, small talk within their little group. You get a sense. Anyway, I digress. It was very interesting to see all the parties arriving earlier today as we were kind of getting ready to go. That's when I talked to Jeff Lacasse out on in the hallway. Also said hello to Mr. Zellman and some of the other attorneys. I think Mr. Zellman has a back issue. Just a guess, because I say that back issues myself, and he does a lot of this, so that's, and he's not nearly old enough to do that just because he's old enough, right? So I get the sense he's got some little back issues. I may share some stories with him to see if I can help the guy out and maybe tell him, here's the path you may avoid. Maybe you want to go this way, maybe you don't. Start with something simple. Don't go to the surgery, even if you think you need to, right? So anyway, good to see all these folks gathering, and very congenial when they're not in front of the jury. It's not like they're fighting it out. In fact, there was one point where Ms. Kappelman made a mistake, and you may remember she was ultimately, there are a lot of bugs here. I'm telling you, I'm in Florida. Remember in opening statements, there was a fly or something in the courtroom, and both prosecution and defense giving their opening statements were like batting it away. I think they needed to call for an exterminator. I'm outside. I'm in their world, so bugs enjoy. But in the courtroom, it does get a little weird. Anyway, so there was a point at which Ms. Kappelman was quizzing Jeff Lacasse about something he may or may not have said in prior testimony. And she made it sound like, there was an objection. And she made it sound like, well, no, we have this. We have, we've gone through this before. And even though there's been a shuffling of counsel, especially on the defense side, they're bound by whatever the prior attorneys have done. So that's why they took the break. They had a sidebar that looked like it was going to go on too long. They took the break. And then they started kind of wading through, they being the prosecution, started wading through, they've got tons of paperwork from the prior 3 trials, from the depositions, all the investigation that's been done. Ultimately, turns out that the state realizes Jeff Lacasse was never deposed by anyone. Yes, he's appeared in trials, but never deposed, and this did not come up. And so she basically had to say, "Oops, sorry." And you probably heard the judge. He actually, did find that there was a discovery violation. But, and this gets to my point about the parties being kind of congenial. That's when Mr. Zellman, and Ms. Kappelman got together, and you could tell they were just like, small talking it through. And they both agreed. She apologized. He said fine. He didn't press it. There's no punishment of any kind, no sanctions of any kind. And the court on the record made it clear that they had worked it out, that it was inadvertent, and that, it was understandable because, how many cases do you have 4 trials plus related discovery, plus the related law enforcement investigation? Not too many. So he was understanding, made the record, and we moved along. So it's kind of nice to see civility, right? And people make mistakes. I can't imagine keeping every single detail of this case in your brain over the course of 3+ now 4th trial. It's a lot. It's just a lot. Let's see. Let me go backwards here because the last witness that I saw before I walked out to get set up here was June Unkinda. June Unkinda. Well, look at us here. Let me see if I can.
Can you hear me? Because
can I hear you now? Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you. I didn't bring my IFB, so I'm listening it through the computer. So let me know if there's a feedback issue, but it should be all right.
Actually, we had to take. I got a new mic, Michael.
Ooh.
It's a wireless mic, and we use it today because my other mic was getting interference again. You know that buzzing that sometimes.
Remember.
So I had just gotten this. It just came in yesterday, and I set it up, and it seems to be working okay.
Good.
And all. Good. So we'll see. But it's a wireless connected.
Okay, if that keeps working, then maybe I'll switch to the same for
the
studio. This is fine.
You know how I told them how I love my Amazon deal today as a wireless mic. I got Amazon deal today. We're like, it seems to have a better sound apparently than the one that cost us like $200. So
yeah, that's figures, right? And while we're talking tech, I did relocate, and this place is not as open for Starlink. So I apologize if there's a glitch here or there. I can't tell. But I think we're fine. Anyway, I was just talking about Charlie Adelson's former girlfriend, June.
I had her testimony on, but I was in a meeting upstairs, and so I kind of had it in the back. And I heard the discussion about the money that the judge ruled that whether it could be reported to the bank or not, it was not applicable to this defendant. So.
Yeah, it was kind of a sad back and forth because Attorney Dugan was saying, no, it's not being used for the truth of the matter. It's being used to show they have a lot of money and they didn't put it in the bank. I think that's the truth of the matter.
Person.
You got to get creative sometimes. There are ways to make that work. I always fall back on state of mind. I will fall back when it looks like I'm boxed in. I will say, well, Your Honor, it goes to the state of mind of the witness, not the details of the actual statement. So it's the effect on the hearer, state of mind. It's a pretty good fallback, and it works a lot. So anyway, she didn't use that, and a lot of that she wanted to get in about the stapled money and how much kept in the big safe, the size of a refrigerator, which we heard from through Miss Akinda. So let me tell you about
the size of a Sub-Zero or the size of a
yeah. I should clarify because you do have apartment-sized refrigerators and you've got double wides, right? I got the impression it was a standard gun safe type safe because he does have guns in there as well. So I'm assuming it's a gun safe, which would be like a small refrigerator, not a college dorm refrigerator, but stands upright, but not real boxy and big. So plenty of stapled cash you can keep in there. So
by the way, Sandy RN, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it.
Where
are you sitting? Can I ask you?
I was
where
behind.
Were you sitting today? Because we had Jimmy in the clear shot in the back.
Yes, I think he does. I think
circled him and tweeted him.
I think he does that on purpose. So he can prove he's here. Yeah. We had some fun this morning. I apologize for whatever brief appearance we made, but I was doing it on my phone.
We posted it.
With the Wi-Fi from the courthouse.
Didn't work. Well, it was. No, we posted because it was so much fun, and people took screenshots of it, and Jimmy's like 6'4". He's huge.
He's giant. And even though we couldn't hear my audio because I don't even know if I had it switched on, I told Jimmy, I said, "Hey, I'm 6'4", So you must be, 6'10". Can you go with me on this? Anyway, so yeah, he was great. I'm glad he's feeling better. He wasn't feeling so good yesterday. And so, so he's been there on the other side. I was the row right behind the state witness prosecution row.
Okay.
So I got very close to that. And that's the jury side.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got my notes. I've been fleshing out my notes on the jury. I mentioned there's a woman on there. I call her the secretary because she doesn't let go of this notepad, and she's constantly writing, no matter whoever it might be.
Okay. Yeah, you always have one of those. It
might be bad if I didn't notice if her notepad had a Justice Serve TV logo on it or not. Yeah, that might be bad.
What I explained to you, sometimes the jurors decide among themselves, look, I'll take all the main notes. I'm going to take the notes of this. You're going to take the notes of this. And they actually have between themselves, believe it or not, within a day or two, they start doing assignments like, I can't take this. But somebody may say, I'll take all, I'll be the scrivener, and that's a possibility.
Yeah, it could be. We don't know how they gelled initially, but everybody does have pads, and I do see everybody using them on occasion, but she's on it. So what I was going to mention was, as June Ukinda completed her testimony, actually, I've timed it better these days. I sneak out just when I think they're about to wrap up, because I don't want it to look like I'm following the witness out of the courtroom, which is what I'm doing. I'm just getting ahead of the curve so they come out. So I approach her, and I said, since I wasn't there when she finished, I said, you've been released, right? You've been dismissed. Yeah. Not a genius, so I had to kind of explain why that was important. I said, would you, I'm Michael Brown with Justice Room TV, and I got the usual blank stare. And so I said, love to chat with you. And she said, and you hear people hesitant all the time, but this was great. I'm not sure I want to get that involved, unless I'm paid.
Unless you're paid. Okay.
Okay. Paid. Okay, so I'm starting to see the attraction to Charlie when she was his girlfriend, right? And then, okay.
Yeah, but when she walked in, did you see this? When she walked in, and I tried to get a screenshot, but I missed it. She smiled. I think it was at Kaplan or one of the prosecutors. She had the biggest smile. She smiled, and then
great teeth.
No, but I was wondering, who was she smiling? Was it one of the prosecutors?
It was all kind of in passing. I couldn't tell where she was facing, so I can't help you on that. She came in, pretty strikingly dressed as I go into my fashion correspondent mode. I mean, that red dress is like, bam, that's a eye-catching dress.
What did Rob say? Rob said Charlie would be into women, go-karts and jet skis. Okay. And that's what he was into, women, go-karts and jet skis. So making it very clear that, Charlie's not going to do anything on his own without a mom. And, I thought his testimony actually was even more damning to Charlie this time, when Charlie's not on trial, than it was last time.
That could be. And he that one revelation. Hey, where am I? Norfolk County? Am I in Dedham? Can you hear the sirens?
No, you're not in Dedham, because you have a judge who's running an incredibly fabulous courtroom. He doesn't need to take a morning break, because he just sends, when there's a problem with evidence, the lawyers talk. He lets Mrs. Adelson go to the bathroom after the lawyers finish. The jurors he tells to go to the bathroom, and he tells everybody in the courtroom, we're waiting for the jurors to go to the bathroom. There's always a line. But I was upstairs in a meeting, and I mentioned what a great judge, and I mentioned the fact that, let me just let those go past. I mentioned the fact that he does this, and he's an open court. It's so refreshing. It's so human, right? And I said it, and he was a school teacher before he became a judge. He said, that's why, because he was always with the kids. The young kids always have to go to the bathroom, and that's why funny. He's interested. Yeah. And he's absolutely right.
He's definitely conscious of that for everybody. And then I start thinking, well, he's at that age where we men might have needs ourselves, so maybe he's working his own needs into the greater good. I don't know. Anyway,
but I tell you, he runs a great courtroom. He runs great rulings. And even when there was that technical violation of discovery, which
we were talking about that before you popped on,
right, which we had talked about earlier too, because it was the first time the prosecutor messed up. Because I had explained that it was probably in a deposition, but he wasn't deposed, and so they thought that they had given it over, they had it, and it was the first big misstep misstep. And it really wasn't big. It was the first misstep I've seen by the prosecution on that. But he didn't say, damn you, you're lying to the court.
No,
it was all taken as a matter of fact and over within like 5 minutes.
He was not clutching his pearls.
Right, like Judge Bev, who just blamed everything on the defense.
He did not have grave concerns. No.
Right. It was that whole trial was so bothersome from Judge Cannoni, and you see what a good judge is. I wish we had Judge. I mean, I wish he could be on every trial.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good combination of let's not screw around, but he has his light moments too, which everybody appreciates, right? So, right. And as I think back, that point that she was caught on for the discovery violation wasn't even really a huge point. In fact, my note
a huger point against Wendy than it would be against Donna, actually.
Yeah. It wasn't a make or break, but I think she felt embarrassed about it, and she admitted that. And,
what was your note on it? What was your note on it that you wrote?
Oh, let me see if I can find it. When I find it, I'll let you know because
it was
on my June notes.
It was about when the kids would have memory, which is kind of interesting.
Yes. And I do think that is interesting. And I X'd about this. I posted about it because I was predicting objections. This one will be overruled, and here's why. And then I got to this one. I said, this is going to be trickier because here's a guy that's had some expertise. He's a teacher that does teach social welfare, and there is a mental component to what he teaches and what he knows. Right. But he was never designated as an expert, which would have cleared this problem up. Then they either would have had an argument prior to trial saying he's not an expert. Yes, he is an expert. And they would have cleared this up, or they just never would have gotten to that point. So I thought it was interesting. I think his observation, why do you think Wendy asked him? If he were a bowler, not that there's anything wrong with bowlers, do you think she would have said, hey, by the way, what age do you think kids start to kind of remember things?
No. But and the thing about it is now that it's been flushed out, if Wendy is indicted, of course, that's going to be an issue with regard to Wendy, because I think it's a fascinating issue that you want to get the kids away. When do they have amnesia? Well, 2, and at now, at 3 they start developing some memories. By 6 they really have memories. So we know that Benjamin was a week from being 5 when Markel was killed, and Lincoln was 2. So they try not to say their names in court. I don't know why. It's all over.
Ben and Lincoln, we know, and even Wendy can be so calculating at times. When there was a question and answer in which Jackie Fulford was talking about the kids, we made a point of saying, I'm trying not to mention the children's name, and Wendy says something, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Just there's only one reason for her to be ingratiating that way, and that's for the jury to think that she's that mom, right? And it just seems so forced. But you're right. Everybody knows who the kids are. Maybe the jury doesn't. Remember, the jury is not us. It ain't the people sitting in the gallery. And I talked to a lot of people in the gallery today, and those that were queued up. Why are you here? What's the deal? And some folks even came up. I was surprised to say, "Hey, where's Linda?" And they came up to say that hey, watch you guys all the time. Love what you're doing. And that was nice because you never know who's watching what, because there's so much for this trial. When the Brian Kohlberger matter ended, everybody's eyes locked on this case, and so
we were coming to this case before that.
Oh my gosh! When people said the what case, the who, what. And now, people have come in from all over the place. I think somebody said there are at least 12 channels streaming it, I think. Something like that. That
would make sense. Let's talk a little bit about the cross of Jeff LaCoste. I thought the cross, aside from the way they crossed, which they look so unprepared, right? And delays and all, but the 3
almost like they didn't know, we have to cross now? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
But the 3 points made that Wendy is a deeply deceitful person, that he only had small talk with Donna Adelson, and that on July 13, 2014, he didn't say Donna. She didn't say Donna to him had looked into hiring a hitman the year before. She said Charlie had looked into hiring a hitman the year before, which is when they were doing with all that relocation motions. So I thought those 3 points were actually good, but they kind of got lost in the in the kind of meander. It didn't meander, but it was like I don't know. It was the stylistic, and I just maybe they can't do. Yeah, I would be like a bump, a bump, a bump, and they'd be like, okay, and then I'd be having that so that the jurors wrote it down. So I don't know.
Let me get to the cross here in a second. Let me some random comments about the direct. I thought the note about the broken TV, and he described it very clearly, and basically, in his opinion, somebody had thrown something and hit it. I would have liked to have known more about that, and maybe nobody knows. Maybe it's not come up. Maybe it's been ruled against in prior motions. I don't know, but that doesn't just happen.
No,
somebody's angry. Somebody's mad about
something. Or a kid has whacked
a kid.
Yeah.
But, those TVs now are pretty darn durable. And if a 3 or 4 year old kid hurls something,
it could.
It may not break it. It could. But that's the point. I wanted to know more because it left me hanging there with.
Because it was a spider web. So it looked like, so it had to be hit in the middle and then it expanded out with the glass.
And why do you make everybody watch a movie on the damn thing? Why do you do that?
Why are you going to call somebody to fix that TV?
I mean, it's clearly this thing is busted.
Right. It's clearly when you have that kind of crack, it's busted. So why are you calling somebody to fix that TV? Because he had a policy on it, so you could have the Geek Squad come in. Geek Squad come in. It used to be with the Best Buy. The Geek Squad started with Best Buy. Remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember it well.
And branched out, and now they're. I don't think they're no longer, right? They're gone.
Yeah, I don't know if they're standalone or not anymore because Best Buy is dying or dead in most places.
So that makes it appear like okay, that was just set up, right? That was just a setup. Whether somebody threw the TV, and then you have a perfectly good TV to watch in another room.
That was just weird. Why wouldn't you just? This is broken. It should making the kids watch it too. I mean, it makes no sense to me. The other note that I thought was interesting was the whole. Cancellation of the trip they had planned. They were going to come back on July 17th, the day before she had to pick up the kids. But her concern and the reason she wanted to cancel the trip, she said to Lacasse, is that, I got to pick the kids up like at 5:00 on the 18th, and they were due back on the 17th. So, I mean, how many things would have to go wrong for her not to be there for that? So it makes you wonder, why was she so concerned about being back so she'd be there on the 18th?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah, it's really. Did you get the impression that his testimony was a lot deeper? First of all, it was very well prepared, and he was very well prepared in the way he walked in and all.
But I think when you're just an honest person, it's easy to look prepared. He's just telling you what happened. He got admonished once for offering a little bit more that was necessary on cross, but so what? Because he's just trying to tell the story.
Yeah, but I thought well, first of all, his testimony seemed to me to be, and this is what we talked about, how you establish the link. We spent a lot of time when we were in breaks here. His testimony to me seemed really much even more damning against Wendy than in the past, okay? And Wendy's relationship to Charlie. So then the question becomes, because the defense did make the point that he hardly ever, just small talk with Donna. The linkage, right? Because you have to link, we're trying Donna, you have to link what Wendy and Charlie have done to be Donna being Ma Donna, the Don of the family, the overall one who designed this plan in this bicycle spokes of the wheel. When does that come? Because I know you had a problem with that yesterday, and I'm sure you don't see that linkage yet.
No, I don't. And I, every time I listen to some of these ooh-ah moments, they're usually bad for Wendy, but not
except for Rob when he said that when Rob, the son, said that my mother hated Dan Markel. That was a
that's and again, they're going to be asked in argument to consider the source, that here's a guy that is not exactly chummy with his mom, and he'll say anything that reflects badly on her. And again, that was yesterday, so I'm just dividing yesterday from today. So far, I haven't heard anything that gets me closer. But speaking of Rob, I thought it was very interesting to hear the story about I think it was an email. I think it was an email.
That was the email between Charlie and Wendy.
Yeah, that said, don't tell mom and dad about Jeff. And Jeff's like, dude, I've met them 5 or 6 times and been around. So what's her motivation for hiding Jeff after the fact from Charlie? I don't understand. I don't know why that was a big deal to her.
Yeah. So I don't know, but it does sound, to me, the whole thing sounded more like, again, he had never seen this. This is the first time he's seen this, right? This email that supposedly he was being hidden, right? But if she in her mind is setting Jeff up to take the fall, maybe she doesn't want to tell Charlie because she knows what's going on, so she's doing her own independent, right? She's making that. She's setting Jeff up to take the fall. And to me, this sounded more like Wendy was setting Jeff up, but that gets us closer to convicting Wendy. How does that get right? Right. That,
You're right.
I mean,
Yeah.
me,
It's all of this is, circling around Wendy, and, Donna's over there. Hey, this is my trial.
Yeah. That's what they want to see. But then we know what's coming though.
We know the bump is coming. And it's been teased a little bit. It's been teased a little bit. The language is coming up.
How is that? How's it in court? How's it been teased?
Again, the attendance is there. Nobody's fallen asleep, and other than my secretary. Everybody's, they are as you would expect them to be. I'm not. I haven't seen any gasps or anything else. But the bump, when that first came up, it comes up without explanation, right? A couple of times it's just mentioned as a thing. Right. I'm sure you know about the bump, so there might have been let's say some confusion over that. Just like, without more, what is that? What does it tell you? Hey, there was a moment. And this may have happened in his prior testimony. I'm getting them confused myself. But there was a moment when Wendy says to, again, this is all bad for Charlie, who's already convicted, and Wendy, but not necessarily Donna. But Wendy asks Jeff, can I tell you something in confidence?
Right.
Remember
this happened on this trial too.
This was last summer. She says Charlie looked into all options, I think is how it was described. He looked into all options in terms of the Dan Markel problem.
Right. It was the previous. He said that the last, just to get it right, because people you're thinking last summer. It was the summer before Dan Markel was killed. He wanted to tell, Wendy said she wanted to tell him something confidential.
Yes. And he said he found out it was going to cost $15,000. Little did he know that the price had gone up by the time he actually secured the hitman, because $15,000 would have been a bargain.
So I interrupted you, but I interrupted you to get the timing for people that don't know the timing. So it was he wanted to hire. So in 2014, right? He said on July 13, 2014, she wants to tell him that. Confidentially. Now this is close to her breaking up, right, with him, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, that whole
breaking up with him
is weird.
And she wants to tell him that confidentially that Charlie had looked into hiring a hitman. She breaks up with him. I think. Let's see the hits on the 18th, right? Thursday, 17th. Yeah. She breaks up with him on the 15th, on the 14th. The 14th was it? So I was going to say it's within a day or two of her sending him an email breaking up with him because she doesn't like conflict. So she breaks up with him by email.
Yeah.
After she tells him this confidential information.
And also right after she's asking him about that trip and his route, he's going to go to Tennessee, and she wants to know when he's leaving and what his route is going to be. Of course, we know he left the night before, kind of foiled that connection.
And she didn't know that.
Those are weird things to be asking someone. And he described, I think he was asked in follow-up on the reference to the hitman and all options, that no, she was dead serious. That was the quote. It wasn't a kidding moment. It was dead serious. And remember what that comes on the heels of. This is the battle between Wendy Adelson and Jeff Lacasse about, the Dan Markel factor becoming, the third. He's like the third player in their relationship, right? He's always talked about it. It's always in between them, and it was almost as if Wendy is saying to him, "That's not going to be a problem much longer." Why? Charlie's looked into all options to solve the Dan Markel problem, including the hitman. So her confidential statement to him was almost to appease him, to say, "Look, I know it's a problem between us now. It's not going to be forever, and here's why."
Yeah, but she's also thinking about making him the fall guy. She
Well,
wants to
yeah,
know his route, because then his
that was
phone.
later though. If the fall
That
guy
was later.
part was later.
Later,
Yes.
but then she wants to know because right, exactly. It's going to ping off the tower near Truscott, which I've told everyone to go watch the route. By the way, people have told me that the only ABC liquor at that time, 11 years ago, was at that location. It wasn't all around like they are now. Just so you know.
I've checked into that, and there that was not the only location.
It
It
was
was
okay.
not.
All
I
right,
mean,
great.
yeah, it was not the only location.
Yeah,
There are now probably more, and
yeah.
that's the nature of that kind of franchise. But no, uh,
I
they're
think
like
your mosquitoes are coming
yeah,
here.
yeah, they're traveling.
They're
That was
traveling.
like they're like Subway now, Subway sandwich shop, almost across the street from one another. I
Yeah.
noted that the gallery in general during that back and forth with Lacoste and the yoga date where he
Oh, the
says,
yoga day. That's a
I'm not
riot.
sure why we're stretching for 80 minutes, but they were just eating up that whole back and forth, which revolves around what we were just talking about. I mean, you could just tell that there's buzz, and these are hardcore true crime fans, predominantly women. We know that's the audience generally, and they're smart and they know this case, and so when something resonates with them, they react. I thought that was very interesting to kind of sitting in the middle of that buzz.
Yeah. It's interesting. So she hasn't broken up with him, but she wants to know his travel plans. And he tells her, and he's going to leave Friday, and he's going to leave Friday around what, 11 o'clock in the morning, I think he said, which is, exactly about when the hit would be done. So that she knows that his phone is going to ping off the cell tower right near Truscott, because I gave her the route. But then she breaks up with him 2 days later. And he doesn't tell her that he changes his route. I forget whether it was weather or whatever. I forget the reason why. And I don't think he was asked why he changed the time of to go.
I'm not sure.
This time, I know it was asked at the last trial, but I don't think it was asked at this trial.
I agree. Yeah, I think it was too.
And as they said, though, I changed it. I actually went the night before, and I didn't have any discussion with Wendy, because Wendy had told me not to talk to her for a week in the email. Right. And then he gets killed. So I mean, that really. And then we have her brought into the police station the day he's killed, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Jeff, he's the jealous lover." I mean, when her friend talks about he'd be this hot prime suspect. Oh, poor Jeff.
I know, and I hope we can get him on. He seemed open to it, but we'll see.
And I'm glad he talked to him before he went on today.
I did, yeah, and because I saw him sitting there, obviously I knew who it was, and I just introduced myself. We chatted for a minute. And I said we'd love to have you on when this is all over, and he said when it's all over. Said, all right.
Who was on our chat today? Doug was here. Doug was in our chat.
Doug
earlier.
W.
Doug W. He wanted to know who Jimmy was, so we got the whole story.
Oh my gosh!
But he was in listening to some of the trial, and also, Doug is great with all witnesses. I mean, I just thought Doug's reaction yesterday to Rob when he's putting his hands over his face, like, "Oh, this is devastating."
Yeah, I saw some comment on that. Yeah, I mean, those who have followed it, obviously, even if you haven't, that testimony was powerful. But those who have followed this, to see him, make an official appearance, give the testimony that he did, that was huge. That's if the jury takes that to heart, that's some of the hardest evidence against Donna that we've seen so far. So, we'll see. I did one comment I noted on that cross you were talking about, the cross of Jeff. One question that was started by Zellman and never finished. He asked about the all options confidential statement. He started to ask about it. And then he stopped, went over to the defense table, and then said no further questions.
What was that about? I know.
He was going to ask about the all options, note that the confidential statement Wendy made to Jeff, which was, hey, confidentially, last summer, Charlie looked into all options to handle the Dan Markel problem. Hitman, 15 grand. He started to ask about that, like he was going to tear into it. I have a feeling he thought this could backfire on me, and he decided to back away from it and not
tell us why.
It.
Tell us why.
I just think it's because it supports any plan to kill Dan Markel, and I don't think you want that in the jury's mind, because then that's easier for them to get to Donna being involved in any plan. So why do you want to reinforce that really horrible scenario by digging into it on cross-examination? I don't know if maybe Jackie Fulford nudged him when he got back to the table, because he was there for a few seconds and kind of shuffling like he was going to do something more, and then he left that hanging, and that was the end of it.
Why would you? Let me ask you this: as a defense attorney, this is a major issue, major piece of evidence. It's certainly going to be a major piece of evidence if in terms of Wendy, if they ever charge her all of this, because they're building the case against Wendy. Somebody says my keyboard is next to my mic. No, my mic is sitting here, and
it sounds good to me. Are you having issues?
Yeah,
sounds good to me.
And it's a wireless mic, so it's I'm not anywhere near anything at this point. And I'm not typing. People have heard typing, but trust me, I'm not typing. All right. But why would you not know that would be your non-plan of attack before you started this?
I understand. I agree. Maybe at some point, he's making his notes, and this is going to be great, and then either upon reflection or help from co-counsel, he rethinks it. If people are hearing a buzzing, is that what I'm hearing people complaining about?
Yes. Yeah. Apparently,
there's a leaf blower or something. It's all the way across the street, but obviously I can hear it, so I'm guessing some of it might be picked up in the mic.
Picking up in your mic, right? Yeah, but there's nothing. I'm in my studio here, and there's
your sound clean.
There's nothing here, and also it's and then we had that this morning. Apparently, the sound was picking up somebody typing in the courtroom.
Oh yeah,
right? And people thought it was me, but it was.
You had to hold up your hands to show.
Yeah, hold up my hand. I'm not typing. Trust me.
Yeah, no, those
and if I am, you're gonna hear it.
They are so sensitive. So it could be the clerk, it could be the judge. I mean,
we heard the judge typing yesterday a lot. We could hear them when the judge was typing. Yeah.
So let's see. We're gonna pick up with Ryan, right? It wasn't what he took the stand as I was leaving, but I never quite got. Yeah. I never quite got into his testimony, and it sounded like they almost immediately took this break because of the evidentiary issue. So I'm not quite sure exactly what the deal is.
Yeah, well, they're showing the seal. So he said he'd come back at 12:30. So he likes to usually come back about 5 minutes early and tell the jury to go to the bathroom. He's got this thing about the toilet.
Haven't already gone now, children. Go to the bathroom.
Yeah, but it's really kind of cute. I just love him. I think he's like a big teddy bear, a big Santa Claus teddy bear.
Oh,
and yet he runs the courtroom.
How about this comment about
Ryan is done. Ryan is done. Ryan was that quick? I mean,
he's done? In the time that I left the courtroom and relocated, they were done? Okay. All right. Hey, what about the statement made allegedly by Donna that Dan seems to be back from the grave haunting me? What do you think of that?
I missed that. Tell me when that happened. Yeah, because I was probably in my meeting.
That was after the basic discussion with the bump, and that was from June Unkinda. I
must have missed it after the.
Or as I now call her, June, pay me now, Unkinda.
That's funny that she wants to be paid.
I appreciate the honesty, but
I appreciate the honesty too. Yeah. So tell me, give me the statement and give me the context, so as if I'm
okay. This was right after the bump, and she described everybody in the mix there being nervous, right? And so she said at some point in that period of time, Donna says to Charlie, and then apparently Charlie relayed it, or she was there with Charlie, unclear. It seems like Dan is back from the grave haunting me. So that was all in reaction to the bump and the stir that created.
Well, that could be an admission against interest. That's why it comes in. Absolutely.
Sure.
With all the other
because then you're forced to argue the other side that, well, they never got along. She didn't like him, wouldn't kill him. But, so she can't put him out of her life. He keeps coming back, but it's not a great argument.
No. And Oasis Cap points out that as June, I call her June Yu. I testified in the previous trials. Donna said to June that she felt Dan was haunting them or me. It really doesn't make a difference, really, because them then implicates a conspiracy, right? Yes, Oasis. I mean, I think that shows guilt, because there's no reason for him to be haunting them unless they killed him, in my opinion, being Italian and superstitious.
And from what I understand, and I was in transit, so you guys help me if I got this totally wrong, but Ryan, who was a former friend of Charlie's, they had a bad breakup. So I'm not sure what he had to say and how that failed relationship would affect what he had to say. But if he was on and off that quick, probably not a whole lot to work with there.
Yeah, but it's funny though. Every time they say Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think of the Jets quarterback who came in, right? Ryan Fitzpatrick, where?
Talk about coming back to haunt you. Whoa.
Yeah, but he's a great person anyhow. And fun. And then he went down to Florida. So when you say that, that's what I'm thinking about. I think I had the whole thing, Fitzmagic and everything. So as soon as they say Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm like, oh, my mind is in someplace else, you know?
Yes. I understand. It is that we're getting all fired up for football because it is,
September 7th, baby.
Next week is the first game, 7th, right?
A week from
weekend.
Yeah. Well, the Thursday night will be the first game.
Thursday.
So Brooklyn asked, someone posted yesterday that the jurors are wearing name tags, not number tags. Is that true? Uh-oh. We are frozen. This is a frozen Michael taking a swig of Coca-Cola. I won't take a screenshot of it.
Am I back?
You're back. You froze. How was a screenshot of Coca-Cola? Yeah.
Here's my good side.
Go away.
I was expecting, the Starlink is plugged into the car, right? And every time I have a rental car, I have to guess, what do I have to do to fool this car to keep the power to that plug? And
wait a second. I just realized no wonder you look so short next to Jimmy. You're sitting on your tushy.
No, that's how I felt. I felt like I was sitting. I'm in the park now, having a lovely day in the park. So I'm sitting down. I got the equipment on the bench because when I travel, it's not like I can bring all of my stands and all my chairs.
Where were we in terms of the thing? Are they the name tags? Are the jurors wearing name tags or number tags?
Name tags.
Or no tags.
I think they have just badges that say juror, but I don't think they have names on them.
Yeah, I've never seen that at all.
Yeah.
So what did Ryan Fitzpatrick actually say, chat? Because he was on and off so fast. What did Ryan Fitzpatrick actually say? So
I heard I heard the ramp up, but when it got to the part about their
Doug
breaking.
Wait! Look who's here.
It's Doug Weinstein.
It's my
co-host Doug Weinstein.
It's my co-host. Hey, so what did you miss, Doug? Doug needs you left at Ryan Lacosse's testimony, I think, Doug. That's when you left, right? So
he saw the X.
Yeah, I think he left at Ryan Lacosse's testimony. Did you think that was pretty devastating to Wendy? And how is it to Donna, Doug? You probably type faster than me. Or we can always give Doug a link to come on. He can have a proverbial link. You saw a bit of Jeff. Okay, that's the thing. When do you have to be back in court, Michael?
Anytime now, because it hasn't been like, oh God, I can't get a seat. But now I'm going to go and try and sit by Jimmy because I know he's going to want to be like front and center. And that way, if the IRS ever questions my deductions for this trip, I can show them the video that I was there.
Jimmy, Doug is working. Yeah. So I'm supposed to be on vacation. So this is why I'm here with Michael this week. He did this to me. He had the Adelson case specially put on this week, and you're working and I'm on. Actually, I'm not because I just had a meeting upstairs. So actually, I'm not.
Yeah, you don't really know how to do vacation.
I'm always working. I've got the pile here. I even got the Justice Serve TV pile here. That in September we have to start all these. Justice Serve TV, the hunt. I'd love to have something called Tickle the Wire, but I don't think that's going to fit in with the hunt, which is the search for Stephanie. Whose name last time I have not given you yet, and we will get that set up. I promise you. We decided to wait till September because there was just too much going on with all these trials. It was like crazy, Yeah, testimonies are really flying by. I mean, the witnesses they were doing this morning were actually initially thought to be scheduled for this afternoon. So now this afternoon's witnesses must be tomorrow morning's witnesses. So
and that may be in an early day. Yeah, maybe an early day. Yeah. And it's funny because going into this morning, the word was that they were a touch behind, and I think that's because of all the delays from yesterday. There was some clunkiness with during the Wendy testimony that they thought
but they weren't because at the end of the day, Kappelman said to the judge, the witnesses tomorrow morning will be the ones that were scheduled for the afternoon instead. We've passed those.
Good. So, and I know that the Officer Bannon, I think it was the one that I talked to. He was sitting out in the hallway waiting to go.
I think it was Brett. Was it Brennan or Bannon?
Bannon, one of those two. I looked on my list, and it's the only B.
Yeah, I have Brett. I put Brennan down, but
he's with TPD.
Right.
So, and I knew he'd be fast, and he was just hoping he'd get on and get out of there, which he did.
And he did. Right. Yeah. Yeah, he did. He was the one who talked about the tape. And when you see how far deep the house is, how deep into Truscott the house is, yes. I thought the house was like near the intersection, right? That you were making a turn, and then you see it. You have to be able to.
It's almost a half a mile or more.
Yeah, it's at the end of your trip down Truscott.
And that road, it's not like 34 Fairview. Although if you come in from the opposite side of 34 Fairview, it is a ways as well, but not nearly as far as the Trescott home is from the intersection with Centerville, which is what happened.
No, I just said Doug saw. Somebody asked about Doug's Yak song, with Doug in it, but that's been out for about a month. But I think they still want the link, Doug. They want the link. We're good at crime investigation. Singing is not our thing, but of course, not the 007 Texas is not too much against. They call it Donatella today. I'm calling her Madonna. So who's up next then, Michael? We're going to finish with Ryan's out. So do you know?
Yeah, we'll see. That'll depend on what they've worked out in this issue with the evidentiary problem. So
what's the problem?
I'm not sure because I left as they were getting into it, so I really have no idea. So we'll see. And I think more of the these we haven't had a lot of. We haven't had the FBI. We haven't had the deep investigation.
Right. Oh guys. Yeah, right. We haven't had.
So I'm thinking and they've teased the bump.
Sanford, right? Sanford hasn't been on.
They've teased that, so we may be on the verge of Patrick Sanford, the head FBI guy.
Yeah,
just my guess.
So maybe we'll be close to that.
Because as soon as I go up there, they'll be waiting in the hallway, whomever it is, and so I'll X that out when I can see.
Maybe you should start. It's 12:34. The seal is up. Maybe you should.
Yeah, I got to go through the massive security check here. It's like, go ahead. Yeah, you want?
Yeah, you can bring your computer and everything else in.
I haven't been taking it just because of the battery issues, because I got to use it for this as well. So I have been using my phone to post on X a lot of stuff. So
all right. I'm trying to retweet it. Somebody's painting Doug's portrait. That's really great. Doug is fabulous, and he was such a great co-host yesterday when I'm auditioning for a new co-host.
Yes.
I just never go. I don't forget it because
I'll send Jimmy down.